All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Brown, serving as Governor of Oregon, and just delighted to see so many of you here this afternoon. The Pacific Northwest is a region bound together by a common geography, diverse communities, shared infrastructure, and a regional economy. With a combined GDP of $2.8 trillion US dollars, our regional economy ranks the 5th largest in the entire world. The impacts and challenges of climate change affect us all, regardless of jurisdictional boundaries. Fighting global climate change is an environmental and an economic imperative. Through the Pacific Coast Collaborative, we are demonstrating that regional collaboration does make a difference, more than each of us working on our own. We took action as leaders on national and international climate policy by establishing the Pacific Coast Action Plan on Climate, making the commitment to invest in clean energy, resilient infrastructure, and innovative technologies. We continue to push for national and international climate action, renewing this commitment today with the Pacific Northwest American Climate Leadership Agreement. Through this collaboration, and consistent with the ambition of Paris agreements, we have a significant opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's so important for us to convene as partners in this fight against global climate change, take stock of the progress we're making, and set new commitments as we create a cleaner, more resilient energy future. As Governor of Oregon, I'm committed to accomplishing our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals and believe environmental values and economic development are not mutually exclusive goals. Our statewide greenhouse gas emission goals were set with an eye toward ensuring Oregon will do its part to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, and we are actively pursuing policies and strategies to make these goals a reality. Oregon's solar industry, for example, is disrupting the trajectory of greenhouse gas emissions while supporting a thriving economy. And earlier this spring, I approved the nation's first coal to clean law that gives Oregon a vision for a future free of coal-powered electricity by doubling the amount of clean, renewable energy serving Oregonians to 50% by 2040. In addition to responding to the challenges of global climate change, our population is growing quickly, and with it, demands for energy and economic development. We will continue to strive to be a leader and partner on energy and climate change policy. We will continue to work hard together on this greatest challenge to our way of life and continued prosperity for our communities in our jurisdictions, in our country, and across the entire globe. Thank you. Governor Jay Inslee.
Thank you. It's said that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And we are going together on the Pacific Coast because we know we have a long, long journey ahead. But we have started big time on the Pacific Coast for a couple reasons. One, we are governors who have looked into the eyes of people who've had their homes burned down from catastrophic forest fires. And when you see the shock and pain of people who are suffering that, you know that action is required, and that's what we are providing. Second, what we understand on the Pacific Coast is that economic growth and action on climate change that are both happening on the West Coast are not a coincidence, that in fact they are a cause. One of the reasons we have such a robust economy on the Pacific Coast is because we have embraced the technologies of clean energy, because we're going to have a grid that's 90% fossil fuel free in Washington State, because we've increased our solar 100% in the last year and reduced the cost of solar 20% every year in the last 4 years. It is because of that innovative economic strategy that we have a robust economy. At the same time, we're reducing the threat of climate change. Third, I want to mention today why, particularly I'm glad to be here today. Today, my state, my Department of Ecology, rolled out a rule that will give our children and our grandchildren what they deserve, which is a wall of protection against carbon pollution. For the first time, a rule will be implemented in our state that will create an absolute limitation on the amount of carbon pollution coming from major emitters. And we will join other states in a vigorous effort to restrain carbon pollution with all the other things we have done, including renewable portfolio standards, incentives for electric cars, incentives for solar, energy efficiency in the buildings, and the like. So this is a great day for my state to join other governors on a very robust step forward. The last thing I want to mention is this collaborative has been successful already. One of the reasons my state has been successful in this rule is we've had the assistance of other states who have assisted us in looking at some of their experience so we can create a rule that is both flexible for industry and we know will work. This has already worked, but this is an update of that relationship, and one of the things that I'm happy about is we have a renewed emphasis on the evil twin of climate change, and that's ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is now a specific threat to my maritime industries in our state. We've had our oyster industry had to move some of its operations because of the acidic waters caused by ocean acidification. And I believe that the opportunity to move on ocean acidification, to get away from any debates about climate change, look, if you want to debate climate change, you're about 15 years too late, but there is zero debate about ocean acidification. This carbon needs to be kept out of the air so it ends up not going into Puget Sound and doing damage to the waters that I hold pristine. So I'm excited about this, good step forward, and I'm thankful British Columbia taking care of our northern flank. Minister Polak.
Thank you, Governor. As the representative from British Columbia, I'm really happy to see the continued progress that we're making as a region. It's been a great year for climate action for British Columbia. Not only do we have this renewed relationship, but of course, we're seeing a federal government that now is taking a keen interest on climate action. And so for a jurisdiction from Canada that began this work back in 2008, we're so excited to have that federal partnership. It means that right now our Prime Minister is leading a process that will work towards a pan-Canadian approach to climate change. That was launched just this March with the Vancouver Declaration, and a lot of what we will be doing in British Columbia in the coming weeks and months will be reflective of what you see of that pan-Canadian approach. But it goes hand in hand with what you see represented in front of you today, and that is, it is extremely difficult to go it alone. When you're a small jurisdiction like British Columbia, 4.5 million people, it's very difficult to set standards and not experience leakage from businesses and from industries, and that's one of the reasons it's so important for us to be working together. We have right now a carbon tax that is one of the highest and broadest in the world. The World Bank president called it one of the most powerful examples of carbon pricing, and we've seen the evidence of how that can work. We also were the first and are still the only jurisdiction in North America to be carbon neutral across our entire public sector, and we've done so for the last 5 years. Our energy supply is already 98% clean, and our GHG emissions per capita are already among the lowest in Canada. What does that mean? It means there's not a lot of easy places to look for continued emissions reductions. It makes these partnerships all the more important. And I want to reinforce the view that's been expressed. This does not have to be a choice between the environment and the economy. In fact, I think as we look at the potential costs of the results of climate change, I think we can clearly say that our economic future as a world, but indeed as a region, is dependent upon action to reduce the impacts of climate change. I'll give you some examples from our economy in British Columbia. We are, by the way, the fastest growing economy in Canada. We are the only province in Canada to balance its budget. We are the only province in Canada with a AAA credit rating. And in terms of a green economy, we've seen 68,165 clean economy jobs. That's a 12.5% increase since 2010. In terms of clean economy, our GDP rose in the clean economy realm to $6.31 billion in 2014, and that's a 19.3% increase from 2010. So our economies depend on our actions to combat climate change. We certainly welcome these partnerships, not only because of the success we've seen, but because of the optimism it gives us. We know that for the future of our planet, the future of our children, our grandchildren, we cannot be the generation that drops the ball. We have to be the ones to pick up the baton and run with it. We need everybody's ideas, everybody's solutions, and together is the only way that we are going to successfully tackle this. Thank you. Governor Jay Brown.
Thank you. This is indeed another milestone. In 2013, when this Pacific Coast Collaborative started, it was relatively small and very embryonic in its essence. Well, just a couple of years later, here we are. We're joined by some key cities here in the Bay Area, and we're making that commitment to reduce carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. This is a serious threat. It's a major issue, and on the West Coast, we are taking joint action, serious action. Now, around the country, there are states and there are political leaders who have their head in the sand. In fact, there's even somebody running for president who calls the whole thing a hoax. Now, were he to be right, then this meeting should be stopped immediately because everybody would be crazy. But that's not the way it is. The other fellow is the one that should stop, and he will be stopped very soon, as I indicated yesterday. Anyway, I am encouraged. I try to set the difficulty of dealing with climate change. When you read this commitment that we're making, there's a lot of provisions, there's a lot of words. This isn't just one thing. Stop this. No, this is integrated, it's comprehensive, it requires governors and Congress people and entrepreneurs, electric utility executives. It requires mobilizing almost the whole swath of our civilization and our leadership here on the West Coast, ultimately through the United States and the rest of the world. But we're here in an innovative center of the world. Most of the leaders of the world come to Silicon Valley. They come right here, and they want to get part of that innovation and tremendous economic dynamism. Well, we're here also with the commitment to deal with climate change. And it's getting more and more visible in the national dialogue. Not enough for my sense, but this, what we're doing here, advances the ball, and how far we've come since 2013 indicates the seriousness of what we're doing. And when we do this again in another year or two, you will see that we're making an advance. And it isn't just elected people. This morning we had Richard Branson and Bill Gates, as well as Tom Steyer, serious financial players. And they're here joining with ministers of energy from different parts of the world. So now with Paris, because of President Obama and President Xi, we really made a real step up in this effort, which was not true just a couple of years ago. So this is important. It's only another step, but an important step, and more people are following. And we are all collaborating. Oregon has a low-carbon fuel standard. Washington, as you just heard, has an overall cap on greenhouse emissions. And of course, the carbon pricing in British Columbia has been recognized by the World Bank as the way to go. So there's a lot of progress. We have a long way to go, but each step is very important, essential to getting to the ultimate goal, which is a decarbonized world.
Thank you, Governor. And I'm honored and excited to be in the company of really great leaders who are coming together and to be here to bear witness on this moment of historic collaboration on our climate change. I'm proud to add the city and county of San Francisco to this agreement, along with so many other West Coast mayors. And as city mayors, we know that our cities are on the front line of the impacts of climate change, and it's becoming more clear that we can't fully address this alone. We need leadership, and we are seeing it happen before our very eyes, and inspires me to be part of this work of the Pacific Coast Collaborative in this agreement. You know, the reality is that the impact of climate change knows no state or city or national boundary line. Sea level rise, droughts, wildfires, the extreme weather conditions are going to continue to wreak havoc across the entire region, threatening our environment, our property, our shared cultural and economic resources, and of course our public health and safety. While I look at this agreement, as a regional insurance policy. Together, we'll prove that decisive, coordinated, subnational climate action can make a huge difference. We can mitigate climate impacts through collaborative planning and goal setting, strengthening our regional economies at the same time as we are reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And the minister was absolutely right. In San Francisco, we've been able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to 23% below the 1990 levels. And while at the same time, our population has increased by 15%, and our economy at the same time has grown by 49%. We can grow sustainably for our planet. And this agreement will take our local efforts to a new scale, and I'm excited about it. I look forward to working with the governors and heads of state on how we might scale up our initiatives to even get greater impact. I want to thank all of our governors and ministers for their participation in this, and I think for me, the next step is to even look to our neighbors to the south and look at the states of Baja California and the Mexico City so they can join, so we can truly have an entire West Coast collaborative on this. We have a lot of work. I'm excited about it. I'm excited also to join great partners like mine across the bay, Mayor Libby Schaaf.
Thank you. I feel like this is a reunion of sorts. 4 of us up here were together on a stage in Paris in December speaking about climate change on the Pacific coast. And so it is great to continue the partnership, the collaboration, and the work to really recognize that climate change doesn't see governmental boundaries, nor can we if we are going to prevent the catastrophic damage that we see coming our way. Here in Oakland, California, we're also very proud to be included in this great group of climate champions. We believe that cities are a great part of that conversation and solution, particularly cities like Oakland and San Francisco that are centers of innovation. We know that globally, the vast majority of core emissions are coming from the world's cities. And that is only going to increase as populations are migrating into urban centers. And yet we have the nimbleness and the creativity to try new things. In Oakland, one of the things that we hope to share is our zero waste program. Something that we believe is the main contributor to our significant reductions of 9% in core emissions and 14% in consumption emissions. Another thing that we hope to contribute to the conversation is creating a measurement of consumption emissions. So again, thinking collaboratively, thinking not only about the emissions that are coming from your city, but the emissions that are caused by the consumption that happens inside your city, even though that product was produced someplace else. And our partnership with UC Berkeley is helping to create a standards that others may learn from in calculating that critical consumption emission standard. And then, of course, we have so much to learn from all of you. We represent the main ports of entry for goods coming, particularly from Asia, into the United States. How we manage goods movement in a way that does not exacerbate climate change is a really important conversation that we hope to learn from all of you in your practices. And so with that, Oakland is incredibly proud to join this innovative group of leaders that are united and committed to collaboration to stop climate change. Talk about dangerous. I know I get to make my Donald Trump joke too. Talk about dangerous. There's nothing more dangerous than ignoring climate change.
Goes.
There probably should be some system here.
I'm sure there is.
She said just sign our own and
No,
have it pass
no,
them, right?
this is very efficient.
SF Gov TV, San Francisco Government Television.